assume that basic word stands for standard. We've been building it up. It's time to let it out.
My name is David Kahn. I serve as the U.S. Chief Instructor for the Israeli Krav Maga Association. We have a company in the United States called Krav Maga Israel. I train under the Israeli Grand Master Haim, Gidon, 10th Dan. We're here working with the Marines, showing them the core techniques of the Israeli Krav Maga system. The focus is on unarmed combat, upper body combatives, upper body defenses, weapons defenses including edge weapon, impact weapon, firearms, long, short, combat-oriented groundwork, releases, throws. There are many similarities to the McMap system. They're both terrific. We've come to give an overview of what we do. Hopefully there'll be some good tools for the McMap instructors to take a look at and perhaps implement into the training. The Krav Maga system was developed for the Israeli military in the late 1940s by a man named Lichtenfeld. It has gained worldwide popularity. I, on a personal, am very fortunate to train with the original group. It's the most evolved Krav Maga. Grandmaster Gidon's been doing it for over 40 years, and the system continues to evolve. The idea is to get a soldier or combatant prepared as quickly as possible for the battlefield using instinctive movements that can be easily learned and retained. It also can be done with extreme prejudice. The vulnerabilities are usually targeted, including the eyes, the throat, the groin, secondary targets that are available, the knees, the kidneys, the liver, the throat, again, the chops, the temple, whatever the combatant, the Marine for that matter, can get to disable the enemy. That's the goal. We also emphasize something called retzef, which means continuous combat motion in Hebrew. There's no choreography to it. It's built on violence of action, continuous action. The moves are designed so that momentum is taken advantage of every which way. In other words, there's no wasted movement, it's economy of motion, and it's an orchestrated brutality. Again, one thing leads to another. For example, when someone is kneed to the groin, the head is going to lurch forward. When they're hit in the throat, the groin's going to come forward to be attacked as well. So the thinking has got to be intelligent, pragmatic, and in the end, brutally efficient. Krav Maga translation is contact combat in Hebrew. Again, it's an official fighting system of the IDF. All soldiers train it for about 3 weeks. The specialized units get more advanced training, sentry removal, advanced knife fighting. The idea, again, is to use the body's natural instincts and movements and teach it in such a way that is easily retained and one doesn't have to think. It's ingrained into you. Whether it's a Marine or it's a spouse, as we taught last night, the rule of thumb, for example, just as if you find the cheekbone, you find the eye, and you'll go right in. The mindset here, of course, is no problem. In fact, it's a privilege, as always, to work with the military, particularly the Marines. The aggressive spirit is very conducive to training and lends itself very well. And ultimately, Krav Maga is whatever works to take you out of harm's way. But of course, there are also some other considerations, such as we're doing some weapon stuff here today, firearms, and if taken prisoner, hostage, whatever it may be, or the disarm, we're not just concerned with the defender's safety, but if all possible with those around him. and the firearm techniques, the micro-explosives, anything that can hurt a third party is also taken into consideration. What we're focusing on here is the military side of it, which is the terminal use of force, terminal applications, finishing with choke, strangleholds, neck breaks, detaching the skull from the spine. My feedback is that the guys have really enjoyed it. They put in tremendous effort. We've been very fortunate to work down at Camp Lejeune, at Geiger with the mace, and then we did a short session with MARSOC. So I just hope to give tools. It's in no way meant to replace what the Marines do, because it's a fantastic system. It's just hopefully adding to it. I also showed the groundwork, because everything that we do up, we do down with modification. It's very important that we teach one technique that has multiple applications. That's the philosophy behind Krav Maga. Keep it simple. Of course, use whatever modifications, adaptations we need. We started to cover edge weapon work. It's probably the most challenging in the curriculum, because the edge weapon at any contact is going to cut. First we dealt with open-handed. If the Marine needs to use his hands or whatever at his disposal, it could be his Kevlar if he took it off to defend. It's always accompanied by a counterattack. And the idea behind Krav Maga is that we defend and attack at the same time, simultaneously or near simultaneously. The idea is to short-circuit the opponent's ability to keep attacking. To short-circuit quickly and in the case here, permanently. We then focus on edge weapons, knife against knife. Again, many similarities to the McMap training. We tend to close when necessary, and we'll also step off. It's understood that in combat, even if you slash somebody's jugular, if he's healthy, he could still pull the trigger on you, or if he's got a knife, he could still continue to fight until it sanguinates. So some of the thinking goes, we're going to defang the snake, which is obviously taking the knife out of his hand. We'll cut across the throat 2 ways, and we'll go inside of the femoral, the groin, whatever the Marine thinks is appropriate. So we give him a few options, but the techniques are the same. Third day, we have worked on rifle defenses, both if an enemy were charging with a weapon, using it as a blunt weapon, and also the same defenses are used against a threat. It's always a fighting chess game. Whatever we can do, we know can be done against us, and therefore we need to think about the best offensive capability and the defensive capability. Again, we're dealing from a modification on the guard. We tend not to teach from the guard except for 2 things, which is snapping the neck and we're using a guillotine. Anybody who has any common sense in a fight, if the groin is available, will punch. Again, the guard is a formal fighting technique, especially for sport. But the Israeli thinking is on the battlefield, if I can punch someone in the groin, I will, therefore he'll do it to me. So as part of a demonstration, we'll show you the positioning that we use. We're using the legs as a buffer and also to kick away the opponent. It's also very helpful if he were to deploy a knife. A gun is a different story, pistol's a different story. And ultimately it's about teaching whatever it's going to take to win. But it's a few techniques, again, reinforced, drummed in, and then show modifications. What didn't surprise me is their go-to attitude. These guys don't quit. Again, it's a privilege to work with them. These are top instructors, of course, IT instructors. I look at them as professionals, and I told them in the beginning that I hope to learn from them as much as I can teach. So it's a two-way street. Again, I've got profound respect for the military. Again, McMap has been proven, as has Krav Maga, so it's a two-way street always. There's nothing that surprises me. They keep going until you stop them. The only method of training which I've tried to instill is that we do signaling. In other words, when I take somebody down from the rear, dumping him on his head, and I land on the back of him, tapping with an elbow, okay, an elbow, punch to the back of the head, it means I'm hurting him. These guys don't know how to quit unless you kind of tap them, but they're getting to understand our training methodology. Training the Marines has been one of the best experiences. I can't imagine training a better group. We are getting requests from different branches of the military. We're honored to do it all. On a personal, again, the Marines are just some of the best guys. They're aggressive. They take the techniques well. They're good, they're athletic, and the learning curve is terrific. McMap has instilled with them, the ability for combatives to keep going, to finish the fight, and we're just giving them a few different tools in which to work with and to compare. But overall, more than good to go. Krav Maga teaches the horrific injuries that one can do to the human body. However resilient it is, Krav Maga is designed to neutralize a threat. And lastly, just on a personal note, it's an honor to be here training with the Marines as a grateful citizen.